over-explained. It's clinically dissected online. Film is just better. There are a lot of videos that explain the difference between film and digital, so we won't cover that here, but we should talk about film for a second to set the scene for why this plugin is so awesome for filmmakers.
There's definitely a learning curve.
Top headlines and what's trending.
Taylor Swift is expected to break another record.
Yeah, sometimes you can get it poorly developed, or it can go through the X-ray machine, and for obvious reasons, that kind of sucks. So many things can go wrong, so you gotta just be on top of it. But we still shoot anyway.
If you're watching this, you're more than likely into video and filmmaking, and you're ready to take it to the next step, to create and run with your own style. Dehancer reached out to me to make this review, and I was really excited that they did. They gave this review no limits and encouraged me to be as honest as possible. So honestly, they can make a better platform, which I really respect. If you're familiar with Dehancer and you'd like to pick it up at a discount, if you're like me and you've watched 5 reviews already, you can use my coupon code COLLINAUSBURY, which will give you 10% off at checkout. It also helped me in the channel, so with that said, these are my thoughts. Why use Dehancer? What's the main point? Dehancer is a plugin that lowers the entry fee. It's a plugin that gives you access to the film look without the pain of getting there. It takes out a lot of the guesswork, and by no means do I think you should stop shooting film. Never say that. I actually highly encourage every photographer to learn that way because it's just so tangible. It's a great way to learn photography.
Also, what I like about Dehancer is that it's not a LUT pack. It's much more than that. So LUTs you can only really place on your footage and dial that up and down, but Dehancer is more like a film simulation tool, so you just have more control.
So after doing a little bit of research, I learned that motion picture film has come through many, many stages and evolution since the good old days. And currently Kodak is the sole producer of color negative film. Currently they're offering 4 varieties of negative film known as Kodak Vision 3. For a while there, Fujifilm was also manufacturing color films, but they ceased production around 2013. What's cool is that all 4 of these film stocks are represented in Dehancer, so you can try them out and see what works best for you. What's interesting about Dehancer is the ability to grade your footage with film prints, the stuff that film photographers use.
Pose for the pic, cheese, say cheese, say cheese. Pose for the pic, cheese, say cheese, say cheese. Pose for the pic, cheese. Mirror, 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 who the freshest? Say it one time for the record.
So, I've never been able to shoot a video on my, or with Portra 400 before. So that's basically all I shoot with my point and shoot. And you're telling me that I can bring that over to video. It's kind of sick.
Collin? Yes. That French vanilla.
What?
What is going on now?
There's 63 film profiles to choose from. So what's cool is that you don't just get the film stock, you get a way to control each characteristic of the film stocks. Now, does their Portra look like Portra? That's the question. And I didn't have time to explore this. I'd have to send film to the lab, get it back, replicate the look in Dehancer. But it's something I would love to explore in a future video. What I do know is that they went deep in the guide on their website about the process, and it's actually really cool. Their team studies film emulsion from actual film, so all the options are recipes that reflect the actual roll. They're not just making this stuff up. From their site, they say that we believe accuracy is important, so maybe that's trustworthy, I don't know. They also update the list of available films often, which is sweet to buy a plugin that they're constantly updating and improving and adding new features to. Now, the big concern among purists is that the film emulsion they're using doesn't reflect the motion picture process, but rather the photographic print process. But if you're a purist, that's something to consider. For the consumer, I mean, if you're getting looks that you love, it just doesn't really matter that much. So the question is, will it work with your camera? All right, something that helped me tremendously was understanding color space transforms. And if you don't understand what that is, I'm gonna drop a video in the description that you should check out. by this color. What are you doing? By a colorist named Darren Mostyn. Darren's been coloring for 25 years. He made an awesome video on the subject. I couldn't even dream to do any better, so check that out. And then if your camera wasn't seen in the profiles, that is okay. All you have to do is use a color space transform, go into Rec 709, and then tell Dehancer using Rec 709. I'll drop a tutorial in the description that I make as well on a little bit of my workflow. Didn't want to bog this down. It was going to take about 10-15 minutes. Anyway, let's check out some features. One of my go-to finishing nodes of any project that I do is adding grain.
I love that Resolve offers it. But Dehancer's grain is unique because it makes your image out of grain. It's completely separate, completely different than what Resolve does. So it emulates how a film strip would portray the grain. So highlights look different, so shadows look different. They just look nicer. And here's a few examples of that. Chromatic aberration and halation, what's going on there? I get them mixed up all the time. Chromatic aberration is I learned a lens issue, and halation is a film issue. So chromatic aberration is basically when greens and pinks show up on the fringes of high contrast areas because the vintage lens typically has a hard time at wide open stops focusing all the light. And halation, on the other hand, is a completely different issue. It's a film strip issue, not a lens issue. There wasn't a backing that would disable the light hitting the film strip, and so some of the light, typically red and orange hues, would reflect back into the film. And so then you'd see these red, orange hues come back on the high contrast areas. And it's funny, like I said, now that we have come all this time, we fixed that issue, we just like it. It just looks good. Like, skin tones look good. They're nice and soft, and I think I can see a reason to use halation in a lot of scenes, with like close-ups, a lot of scenes with people and faces. A flaw all these years has turned into an aesthetic.
I've seen a couple reviews of folks saying they'd be comfortable using Dehancer's bloom instead of filters like a Pro Mist. I keep a Pro Mist on all of my lenses. I have a Pro Mist on right now with my Sigma. So I thought I'd put it to the test. Here are some sample shots. One with Pro Mist and one with just bloom, and I'll leave the conclusion to you. Some other features that Dehancer provides are gate weave, film breath, film damage. It's definitely worth noting that all these features have been given more versatility in version 7. So all the features that we talked about, like grain and bloom, halation, can now be reflected on certain types of film strips. So if I want how halation would look on an 8mm film strip or a 35mm film strip, I can do that. If I want, grain on a 16mm or a 65mm, I can do that. And the smaller the millimeter, the more pronounced the effect will be. And I think that's a really cool addition from the Dehancer team. So with licensing, you have to keep in mind, if you buy one license for Resolve, it's only for Resolve and it can't be used for Premiere or some of the other platforms. But each license does come with 2 seats, which is great for obvious reasons. If you have 2 editing setups, you can use one for work, XYZ, or give it to a friend. I don't know if they'd let you do that, but I would personally recommend the Resolve version, as it looks like they just update it first and before all the others. Resolve's color workflow is already becoming industry standard, and so it wouldn't hurt to build that skill set. So now what I don't like about Dehancer, I think all the processing from the time I've used it so far just really slowed down Resolve, and I had it crash a couple times while I was just trying to play back. And I know it's going to put a strain on your computer. So I tried this on my 2016 MacBook Pro. I also tried it on my 2023 M2 chip MacBook Pro. And let's hear from future Collin on the results of that.
Works great.
The second thing I'm not a huge fan of is right at the beginning, when you're just trying to get to know the platform, it's hard to know where to start. I think there's too many options. As you get to know the plugin and you get to know what each feature does, obviously long term, it's awesome because you have the flexibility. I think I would just recommend reading their guide on their website. I think they do a great job of breaking down the workflow. At the beginning, it's a little hard to get to know where to start. One of Dehancer's biggest competitors is Filmbox, and I see this in the comments. I see people asking for a comparison of the two, which would really be fascinating. But people say that their grade and their grades are just more true to the actual film stock. From what I've read, their whole goal is to make a tool for DPs and directors to use on set, as well as in the post process.
What's up? This is editor Collin here from the future. Just got access to Filmbox, so if you want to see a comparison of the two, I'd be happy to. We've been using Filmbox on a couple of client gigs, and so far it's been super gorgeous. So definitely considering making a review in the future. Let me know if you would like that in the comments.
Dehancer by far takes the lead with the amount of presets and options that it offers. I think Filmbox takes the Apple approach, where they take features that have already been implemented out in the world and they just perfect them. They make them better with less options. But either way, they have a light version. You should check it out if you're on the fence. When it comes down to it, I think pricing is probably the key variable that a lot of us care about the most, because it's just expensive. So if you make money from your videos, if you do paid gigs, it's going to pay itself off pretty much instantly. But for those who just make videos, it's harder to acquire. So Filmbox, every 3 months, it's $129. I think it's $349 as of today annually. It's about $1,000 for a perpetual license, but they also have studio and production licensing for the big leagues if you're out making a feature. Dehancer definitely takes the prize long term. Every 3 months, it's $149, so more expensive than Filmbox. But then the price starts to decrease dramatically. 6 months, it's $200. But if you want to get a lifetime license, it's going to be $449. So bringing it down long term, if you want to buy the tool, Dehancer is going to be half the cost of Filmbox. And that makes a huge difference, especially if you're trying to play around, and especially if you're a videographer or filmmaker who just wants to get a ton of looks to try and just have fun grading. I think Dehancer, honestly, this is my honest opinion, Dehancer just makes grading fun. It does slow down your computer a little bit, but just try stuff. It's just fun. This is definitely a film emulation tool rather than just a cool LUT pack. It's going to do so much more for you, and I just highly recommend it. If you're really serious about it and you can only choose one, both websites have long, detailed manuals. So if I were you, I just read through them, see what offers you the best tools that you need, because you'll only know what's best for you.
Thank you for visiting.
They also have an iOS app, which I found very useful, especially when I was doing a lot of traveling. I was able to edit photos right on my phone in the airport, and I didn't even have to whip out my computer, which is kind of sick. The interface is clean, and again, there's so many film stocks and presets that it's just fun to play around with them. I shoot with the Fuji X-T4, which I set to already bake in the grain into the image, but having the option to tweak and try out other film stocks on top of that, it's just fun. So the app has a week trial if you want to try it out. The price for the app is pretty high if you want to get the subscription long term, but if you make money with your photography, again, this would be an awesome tool to keep in your pocket. If you decide it's for you, great. If not, that's great too. But what do you think of the plugin? Let me know in the comments. I think if you enjoyed this and you want to see more, you know what to do. This channel is about helping filmmakers get looks they love. So let's do that together. With that, have an awesome week. See ya.